I don't know definitively. There's a lot of debate on both sides of the aisle.
Well, actually, there's not a whole lot of debate now. The scientific community is virtually unanimous that climate change is real and causing devastating problems. There is the debate on this committee, but not within the scientific community. Will you and will the President-elect join us in legislation we are working on, which, number one, will allow Medicare to negotiate prices with the drug companies and lower prices, and number two, allow the American people to bring in less expensive medicine from Canada and other countries? Is that something you will work with us on?
The issue of drug pricing and drug costs is one of great concern to all Americans. I think it's important to appreciate that in a couple areas we've had significant success, whether it's in the generic area where costs are significantly less than they have been, and in part...
But you are aware, sir, I don't mean to be... we don't have a lot of time. We are paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. You don't disagree with that, do you? Do you disagree with that?
I think that's the case. I'd have to look at the statistics. I think there are a lot of reasons for that, and if we get to the root cause of what that is, then I think we can actually solve it in a bipartisan way.
One of the root causes is that every other major country on earth negotiates drug prices with the pharmaceutical industry. In our country, the drug companies can raise their prices. Today, they could double their prices. There is no law to prevent them from doing that. Will you work with us so that Medicare negotiates prices with the pharmaceutical industry?
You have my commitment to work with you and others to make certain that the drug pricing is reasonable and that individuals across this land have access to the medications that they need.
Wasn't quite the answer to the question that I asked.
I like getting past the rhetoric, sir. And getting past the rhetoric is looking at the record. Yes, sir, but I think it's important for us to talk about the 12th largest economy in the world while I was the governor, because you're asking me, what am I going to do
I'm asking you if you agree with the scientific community that climate change is a crisis and that we need to transform our energy system to protect future generations.
And, Senator, I will respond that I think that having an academic discussion, whether it's with scientists or whether it's with you, it is an interesting exercise.
We should be greatly troubled by giving power to a person who has stated flat out that he wants to expand the surveillance state, not rein it in. Mr. President, here is the kind of world we are now living in, a world that should be of concern to every freedom-loving American, whether you're Democrat or Republican or independent, conservative or progressive. We are living in a world where government and the private sector often know where you are at any time. They know where you are. They know where you are traveling. They know what books you are reading, what websites you are visiting, and maybe the emails you are sending out or reading. Would you be so kind as to tell us how much money your family has contributed to the Republican Party over the years?
Senator, first of all, thank you for that question. I'm, again, was pleased to meet you in your office last week. I wish I could give you that number. I don't know.
I have heard the number was $200 million. Does that sound in the ballpark?
Collectively, between
over
my
the years,
entire
yes.
family, that's possible.
Okay. My question is, and I don't mean to be rude, but do you think if you were not a multi-billionaire, if your family has not made hundreds of millions of dollars of contributions to the Republican Party, that you would be sitting here today?
Senator, as a matter of fact, I do think that there would be that possibility.
Do you believe that climate change is caused by the emission, by carbon emissions, by human activity?
Senator, as I indicated, you weren't in here during my opening statement, but as I indicated in my opening statement, the climate is changing, and the human activity contributes to that in some manner.
In some manner?
Yes, sir.
97% of the scientists who wrote articles in peer-reviewed journals believe that human activity is the fundamental reason we are seeing climate change. You disagree with that?
I believe the ability to measure with precision the degree of human activity's impact on the climate is subject to more debate on whether the climate is changing or whether human activity contributes to it.
While you are not certain, the vast majority of scientists are telling us that if we do not get our act together and transform our energy system away from fossil fuel, there is a real question as to the quality of the planet that we are going to be leaving our children and our grandchildren. But surprisingly enough, I have not seen that tweet where he says, I am going to keep my campaign promise and I will not cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I am waiting eagerly for that tweet, as are millions of seniors and working people in this country. So the issue that we are discussing today is, A, will the president keep his campaign promises, and will he appoint people to his cabinet who will help him keep those campaign promises? And now we get to Congressman Mulvaney. And to Congressman Mulvaney, I want to thank him for coming into our office. We had, I thought, a very productive, interesting discussion. But his views on Social Security, on Medicare and Medicaid are exactly opposite of what Trump campaigned on. Let me quickly run through Congressman Mulvaney's record. May 15, 2011, Congressman Mulvaney said on Fox Business News, quote, "We have to end Medicare as we know it," end quote. April 28, 2008, Congressman Mulvaney said, quote, "Medicare as it exists today is finished," end quote. August 1st, 2011, Congressman Mulvaney said, quote, "You have to raise the retirement age, lower a pay cut, change the reimbursement system. You simply cannot leave Social Security the way it is."
And here is the most important point I think that people have got to understand. The Republicans think they have a mandate. Let us not forget that Trump lost the popular vote by almost 3 million votes, that on virtually every major issue facing the people of this country, whether it is cutting Social Security or expanding Social Security, whether it's raising the minimum wage, whether it's pay equity, rebuilding our infrastructure, the American people want to go forward in a progressive way. They want, Republicans want, the wealthiest people to start paying their fair share of taxes.
They want to cut Social Security. They want to cut Medicare. They want to cut Medicaid. Mr. Trump was right, and millions of people voted for him on the belief that he would keep his word. Well, it seems to me that Mr. Trump right now has got to do one of two things. Number one, if all that he was talking about was campaign rhetoric, then what he was obliged to do now is to tell the American people I was lying. Yeah, I said that I would not support cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, but I was lying. It was a campaign ruse. I just said what came to my mind to get votes. I had no intention of keeping my word. And if that's what he believes, if that's what the case was, let him come forward and say that. But if that is not what the case is, if he was sincere, then I would hope that tomorrow or maybe today he could send out a tweet and tell his Republican colleagues to stop wasting their time and all of our time. And for Mr. Trump to tell the American people that he will veto any proposal that cuts Medicare, that cuts Medicaid,